What's up, yo? Got a fancy modern truck on the channel here today. This is a 2012 F150. This is my dad's truck. I drive most every day at work, and it's in here right now because the water pump's leaking coolant out the weep hole. So this is going to be a change in the water pump on a 2012 Ford F150 video. Oh, hey, look. It's me. Not opening the hood. Now over here in the front of the motor, right up on top, this is the throttle body and the little intake tube. Right underneath it there in that dark spot is where the water pump is. So we're going to start with pulling the intake assembly, possibly the throttle body, and then we'll have access down there to that water pump. Removing this runner from the airbox to the throttle body is just two large hose clamps, and then there's this soft up here, there's this soft vacuum line, whatever that is, intakey line that slides off there, and then there's this funny looking clip hose guy. You put your finger on the underside and there's a tab here. You lift up on that tab while giving it a twist and pull, and that's how that one comes off. Now that we got the coolant drain, the next thing is we're going to get our throttle body and this T hose assembly out of the way. So you're going to have to deal with these strange fancy new Ford clips, and all you'll have to do there is get like a pick type tool. Seems to be what works the best. And you see down on the bottom side here, this groove, this clip will be clipped in like that, and you need to pop it down the way it just was. See, it's got these little grooves on the side for it to rest in. The thing is right here on where it comes off of, see, this is where it slides over, and then there's this groove here. That clip slides into that groove, so this can't slide off. So it's pretty simple, but if you don't know what you're looking at, it's like, what did they even? And now, moving forward, we'll take the other clamps off this way and that way and remove the rest of the upper radiator hose here. Then all we have is throttle body, and the water pump will be right out in the... To get this hose clamp loose on the top of this T type thing, I had to pull this top heater hose off. And that was another weird little clip, but it was pretty easy. See these tabs on the side, and you like get your fingers under it and pull the tabs inward and then wiggle the hose up. When you pull inwards, there's these little triangular type plastic pieces that clip in to the holes on the inside of here, and when you push in on the little tab underneath it, it releases those so this can come off. Now that we've got our belt, the bolts loosened on the pulley, the belt removed, and then the pulley removed, it looks like the throttle body's not going to be in the way at all here. And next we can move on to, there's an 8mm bolt here holding this flange attachment doohickey right here onto the water pump housing, and then right here I believe is the thermostat housing. It has two 8mm bolts. I got my ratchet on one and the other one's up here under that hose. It's also mated to our water pump housing, so we'll take those two guys loose, and then we're down to the main bolts that you can't see that hold the water pump in place. So this metal pipe right here that pops into that top flange on the water pump is a bit of a pain to deal with, but what I did is sprayed the PB blaster all down here where it connected. I've got these small pair of channels, just like so. After the bolt was pulled, you see there's like this square part of that flange, and I was able to start wiggling it back and forth a whole bunch, and then slowly but surely pulling and wiggling and getting it to pop up out of that bore. I'm not entirely sure, but I believe we have to keep this and stick it on the new water pump. I don't think the new water pump comes with that pipe on it. So now we've got everything else loose from our water pump besides the mounting bolts. So now we can pull those out and pop it off. Okay, now that we've pulled our 5 10mm bolts, the water pump housing is all free, and it has like a gasket O-ring type into the block seal, so you'll have to grab it and give it some wiggles, and hopefully it won't be too hard to get off. Now we did it. You might notice all the wetness around this little weep hole here. There's a seal inside here somewhere. You know it's driven at the front. There's a shaft. There's water on the inside. When water breaks that seal, they have this hole in here, so it comes out and you know that it's all messed up. And clearly ours has been leaking quite a bit. Alright, now that we got back from the auto parts store with our replacement lifetime warranted water pump, down in here where it mounts up, we'll go around. I've already gone around and cleaned up on that mating surface really good. Make sure we don't have any dirt or sediment stuff settle down in that water pump housing. There's this little locatey guy over here. You see this notch cut out. Well, there's a hump that it sits on top of, and that helps you like locate the guy, the exact orientation it's supposed to be in there. It slides back into the hole pretty easy. You might have to wiggle around to get it lined up just right, and then it slides in up to the O-ring nice and easy. Then you can put your thread locker on your bolts and start running them around. By the way, there's 4 bolts, not 5. I pulled out one of our timing cover bolts over here. Don't need to do that. Only 4. Anyway, you run all 4 of those back in and start evenly, you run them in hand tight and start evenly tightening them down with your ratchet, top, bottom, left, right, back and forth, and it nice and easy, takes 0 torque on your ratchet. It real easy sucks it down into the hole, and then your O-ring is seated all nice and evenly in there, not all crooked at an angle or something like that. So now that we've got it all seated in there nice and even, we can torque our 4 bolts back down to 13.5 pounds I found when I Google searched it. And then after we do that here quick, we can start reattaching some of our other fittings and doodads, and then the pulley. Now our new water pump comes with a new O-ring for this little metal guy that stabs into the top there that we took out earlier. So what I like to do is use a little or WD-40 or some kind of oily something and lubricate this thing up. It makes it easier to stretch it around to get it back into its little groove here without it tearing. And then it's already lubed up and ready to be stuck down into the hole. Oh wow, that was much easier than it was to take out. It's already in there. Now that we've got our thermostat housing all mounted back up and torqued down, we can apply, we can reinstall our T radiator hose fitting guy. And before you go putting it on, there is a seal O-ring type of situation inside here. You want to make sure that's still seated in there all the way, because it could have dislodged and fell out while you're doing your installation, whatever, while you're taking it apart, I mean. Well, I had to pull this back off for just a minute. Stupid factory original compression clamp. The tab broke off of it, so it's awful hard to get a bite on it with a pair of pliers and put it back in place. Yeah! Okay, now we've got all our hoses and our pulley mounted on, our 4 bolts torqued back down. We reinstalled our serpentine belt down there, and we topped off the coolant here with a 50-50 mix of antifreeze and water, and so far it's not all leaking back out. Water pump weep holes are dry and all my hose connections aren't leaking yet, which is a surprise because man, the connections they have on these new Fords. Just every kind of stupid, ridiculous thing and making a simple barb and a hose over it. Those work really good. Better get rid of them. Anyway, now it's time to put our intake piece back in and then run the truck and continue to look for leaks. Alright. Now we've reassembled everything, ran the truck for a while, shut it off, let it sit over the concrete. Our coolant level is right in the center of the low-high range where it was before, and we don't have any new puddles under the truck. So, mission successful. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day.